guys. Welcome one more time. We had technical difficulties the first time we did this video, but we're back at it with another one. Sir Terry Grover, my dad, the living legend himself, the man that showed me many things, is joining us today, and we really appreciate his time. But most of you guys that subscribe to me know who this is. And we're going to talk a little bit about him, his background, and how he's helped me get where I'm at. But Pop, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how everything got started for you and what got you into racing.
Well, I'm Terry Grover for anybody that doesn't know. And for all the people that do know me, that's your problem. I was thinking about this, how long it's been since I've liked cars, and it's from the time that I can remember uh, just being a little kid. My mom used to tease me and tell me when I got older that I used to run around the house making engine noises and like I'm squealing wheels and all that stuff. So that's always been in my blood. I don't know how it got there, but that's just how it's always been. So I remember the guys next door taking off and getting on it a little bit, and with their Mustangs and things like that back in the day. So that might have something to do with it.
Well, back then when you were coming up, it was the time to be alive. You had hot rods, and that was I guess the pinnacle of the old school racing scene, back when you were growing up.
Yeah, back in the day, you never really knew who had what under the hood. Now you pretty much know what's under the hood in most of these cars today, and it surely made a difference who knew what they were doing to make something fast. Because some guys knew how to really make something run, and you usually knew who that was, in your neighborhood. Like in my case, it was Gilbert Smith, and he was related to me, and he would get a car one week. It'd be like he had a Camaro. I'll give you, for instance. The car went like 15s, and we were laughing at it. And he got mad, and he says, "I'll have this in the 12s next week." And it might have not been that next week, but a couple weeks after that, it was in 12s. And he was one of the guys that you went to ask questions. And it was pretty neat because he ran Ford and Chevy. And a lot of guys back in the day, you were either a Ford guy, Mopar guy, or a Chevy guy. You didn't see guys too often that ran both. So that was kind of neat out of him. He had that's a good way to go when you can do both type vehicles like that, the Chevy and Ford, because they're totally different animals.
Definitely.
So that was cool on my part growing up with him. I have a lot of stories about him. One day I'll tell them to you. It take me an hour just to tell you a few of them, but
Yeah, we had a bunch of, I remember a bunch of days hung out in the garage and told stories. But one of the trucks or cars that I remember you had was an older truck and White Lightning, the very first one, and now we got a second one coming on the way, and I know a lot of people are excited for that. But that was the truck that I learned about. My dad told me stories about Dennis. These are all older friends of my father's that all talked about that truck from back then, and Gordy. Um, you know, pretty nice guys. So, how did that truck come along, and what did you do to that to have fun with? Because I know there's a couple other cars we could talk about too.
you're talking about the old truck like I have
Yeah,
now, the
yeah.
65.
Hmm.
Well, I'll tell you how that come about. Doug Roach is the other guy that I looked up to when it came to racing, and he was at the house one time, and I said I'd like to get. I had a Torino, a '68 Fastback GT, and I had a 429 put in that car, and I needed some work done to it, and Doug was there looking at it, and he goes, what would be neater than that car done up He goes, because people expect that to run. That car's got that look about it. He goes, why don't you take the motor out of that and put it in that truck? That's how that happened. And I said, I don't want to do that. I said, this has been my dream to get this 429 in this Torino, and now it's in there. So, on a different note, he wasn't totally to blame for that. My mom had come to me and she says, I don't know why, but I have a feeling that you're going to get hurt in that Torino. And my mom didn't know, but what I had done with that Torino to get it up and running, I had a 57 housing out of a car, or 56 Ford, I believe. It was a housing. And I had to squeeze them leaf springs over to make it fit, which was unsafe. Just to get it, I could have it go down the road. And, God's going to say, man, that's something you should never do. But my mom didn't know I did that. And for her to tell me that and had that feeling, now I don't know if that's why she got that feeling about that, but that was something there. And then Doug saying that to me. So, long story short, the motor came out of Torino and went into the truck. So that's how that come about, the truck, that 65. And but it's something that you're talking about, the truck, and that's why Adam got me the other truck that I'm working on now, because that's a memory, and you hear a lot of stories about it. I used to call that truck the 2-ton express because it was 4,000 pounds. And you know what? Nobody wanted to hear how heavy that truck was. They'll
Nah.
get on us about how light the cars are now, but they didn't want to hear how heavy that truck was when
Yep.
I'd run somebody.
Yeah,
Why is
another
that okay?
yeah, just it's the world, if you ain't fast as well, if you're faster than me, you got a pro mod at that point. I don't care what it
Yeah,
is. But
yeah.
the other car and I wasn't alive for any of these, but the other car that I heard a lot about was that four-cylinder Pinto. And man, that tore a lot of people's butts up back then. And I think that was a brand new car that you bought, right?
The four-cylinder, the 79 was a brand new car. Yeah, and that's that. As a matter of fact, I forgot to tell you this before. I got my only trophy down the track with that car, and the cars I raced that day were fast cars. I mean, uh, a big block Mopar, a open up 55 Chevy, open headers. I mean, that's what I meant by open up, and that was old school talk. But and I beat them cars that day, and I got my only trophy with that four-cylinder Pinto. But I did real good with that. That car was amazing. How that ran at that time. There's a lot of cars that I don't know, that run a little bit better than most, and that was one of them. So even from stock to what I did to it, that thing always ran a little bit better than an average Pinto would run. And I had a
What
lot of Pinto.
what was is that so 79 was the AOD out at that point, or what transmission was that? I can't even remember.
Oh, it was a stick shift.
Ah, okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, I blew 6 transmissions out of that car in about 6 months. Yeah.
Well, that was the next question is, man, the stories on the street and, getting the luxury to watch you drive, in some of these videos. And, I got a bunch of videos that I want to post here, and, I might be able to edit this video and do it a certain way. But you driving the stick shift cars, I mean, who showed you how to do it, or is this something that you just did and practice over again? Because I know many people like to brag it up, but I mean, the some of the videos that I've seen, I mean, Pop, you had it down pat.
You had to get mad. I used to have my I used to wonder why my teeth used to hurt after I raced somebody, and I realized I was gritting my teeth the whole time, and my veins would pop out of my head pulling the shifter.
My dad does the same thing. It looks like he's taking a massive crap. He's
your your
shifting that
dad
thing.
Your dad was in with me one time. He started cracking up laughing. I said, "What are you laughing at?" I goes, "Terry, you don't realize that your head goes like this here when you're shifting gears." I was like, "I do." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "You're so concentrated and you start wobbling your head." Some guys are a little laid back and they yank a gear. I get all tensed up, I guess. But
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I kind of choke up on it a little bit, like I'm grabbing a chicken's neck. But so let's
well,
I
they
it's,
they called they called me Gear Jammer. That was my handle on the CV back in the day. Was Gear Jammer.
hey,
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Yeah, yeah,
But one of the things I taught myself, and I'm sure guys did this long before I did it. Back in the day, they would when they were going to race a car, they would the way they would work the throttle, they would go wah, and that's how they run. These guys run pumping the gas and like would would rev the car a little at a time. And I'm like, why do them guys do that? Why don't they just hold the gas pedal down? And that's what I did. As long as the car hooked, that was always the best technique, and it was how I worked the clutch rather than the gas pedal. Like you could slip the clutch, and uh, if it had a bad traction with the tires or a bad road, you could. I always felt it in the clutch. I don't have that so much anymore. I've lost that since I gotten older, but I had a good feel for that back in the day when it came to stick car. But
yeah, me and Adam were talking about it, and he told me when he first took his car down, and he was like, "Yeah, well, my dad told me I gotta shift the car higher," and I came back next pass, and he was like, "You gotta shift the car higher." And Adam did the same thing to me, when I first got into this car here. But yeah,
he was
man,
under a lot of pressure.
yeah,
I had him under a lot of pressure because he was probably afraid of breaking the car and then afraid of me yelling at him at the same time, but yelling, telling him to go fast. So that was a
yeah,
lot, you know. He's a young kid back then, and that was one of them deals. It's like, do I really get on it like I want to? Because he wanted to. He's just afraid of breaking it because I told him the stick car, you're going to have problems blowing the transmission out of it. So I had him on a little bit of a fear factor, I think. He did real well when I wasn't around, though,
yeah.
shifting that car.
We we've learned a lot throughout him too, with the stick game. But
And I think he learned more without me around.
yeah, I mean, I guess it's one, trying to go out there and make you guys proud. But yeah, it's always the fear factor of shifting the car and it breaking. And I remember when I took my car out for the first time, my dad was with me, and I've driven other cars, just never in front of him. And I was kind of scared, and I didn't want to, shit. He was like, "Dude, listen, you ain't never gonna go fast unless you get mad at that thing and try and shift it." And that was it. And then me and him had a pep talk one day. He was like, "Listen, you gotta drive the car like you're gonna try and break it." He said, "If you don't try and break it, it ain't gonna run." And that's what I do now. So I know, dry that damn thing and get it down there. But just
And you
talking this.
sounded good when I heard you. When I heard you at the track, I told Penny, I was like, Mickey's doing a good job driving that car.
Yeah,
So
it's the clutch is bad in it, and no matter what I do, as far as like adjust it and move the stop on the clutch, and if I power shift it, it'll lock me out. It just won't do it. I've tried it getting on the gas, getting off the gas 50%. So we've narrowed it down to it just needs a clutch. I mean, it's been in the car since 2015, and
yeah,
it's been in there for a while. And three drivers, me, Adam, Alex, nobody was, light on that car when they were shifting it high. So, it's time for a clutch. We already knew that. But I kind of want to talk about the original green car, the Green Gangster, when you had it. That was like the first time I ever ridden in something fast. Because my dad had cars, he just never raced them. So being in that green car, feeling the weight, it was going through the gears and everything, like was a completely different world for me. But I remember when that car was getting put together, and the thing that stuck out the most, and we talked about it in the last video, but I want people to understand my memory from back then. There's little things that I'm good with, some things that I'm bad with, but I'll always remember that Edelbrock carburetor cleaner that you had that was shaped like a heart, and it was the coolest thing on earth. I loved it. I've seen it catch fire a couple of times on you, but I mean, I don't know why. It looked the best in my opinion. It set that car off with the SVO hood scoop on it, and that was it.
Them breathers caught fire, I think, on everybody because they were junk.
Yeah.
Yeah, they worked okay when they were new, but they had a like a sponge type liner in them, and that would dry out. And it didn't take too long for that to dry out, and that would actually fall apart into your carburetor. So they were actually a terrible breather. But I'm with you. I liked how it looked. I just
Yeah,
don't know if it was worth. I just don't know if it was worth all the stuff that went in my carburetor.
yeah, and listen, like, man, there's so many things. I remember when I was younger, you had there was a Red Explorer or a Mountaineer, and that thing used to twist up when you left the stop line, the stop signs and street lights, and it was just fun watching you making stuff work. And that green car really stood out like that, and that was my favorite one. I remember that car going down to the track, and I was downstairs watching TV one day, and my dad just so excited came and told me, he's like, "Hey, Mickey, uh, Terry went 12s in that car. And nobody thought it was going to go 12s. Everybody thought it was going to go 13s." And that was a motor like in the back of one of our buddies' houses. I was just thrown together in that car. And a lot of people don't realize like that motor combination. That car has beat like 347 cars, 331s. I mean, small blocks, big blocks. There's been a couple of cars that got taken down underestimating that thing back then.
You know what that motor really was? That motor was a engine that they had sitting around. They were going to rebuild because they thought it was no good. And what happened? Somebody had put some bolts in my other engine and hurt it. So I won't go into that story because I want to keep us positive. But I had to get to work the next day. And I was over to Fred's house and he had that motor in the corner. And I said, "What are you guys ever going to do with that engine right there?" He goes, "They're supposed to rebuild it." He goes, "I don't know." He says, "They keep saying they're going to rebuild it and it's still sitting here." He goes, "Let me find out." So I don't know if the guy happened to be there or if he called him. I think he was there, come think about it. And he goes, "Why, you need the motor?" I was like, "Yeah, I do." He goes, "Well, I was going to keep it, but you know what? If you need it, I'll sell it to you." And he did. And Fred goes, "Yeah, but aren't you going to freshen it up?" I said, "I need it to get to work." And Fred goes, "What, you're putting that together the way it is?" I said, "Yeah, because I had the heads and stuff off of it." And Fred says, "Well, I got a gasket set here." I think I paid, I don't know if I gave him $100 for it or $300 for it. I think it was $100. I'm not sure. I might remember somewhere along that lines, either 100 or 300. I can't remember. But we put that thing together, and that's when they said that, "You think that thing's gonna run the 12s?" And I was like, "Yeah, I can get it in the 12s." Like, "No way." And I was like, "You watch." And I was just telling somebody about this. Them guys came down the track with me. They were like my pit crew. Them guys dug in there. They were changing my tires for me. Man, I felt like Bob Glidden down there. Them guys were, man, that was a nice day. Them guys dug right in. "You need me to do this, Terry?" You need like I appreciated that because that was really a fun time for me when I went to the track and that's when I went runner up at the
Mhm.
MNRA race back. Well, I guess what, '08 or '07,
Yeah.
somewhere
Yep.
around that time. I have the picture, it has a date right on it, but it was around that time. And every time I went around, they're like, "I can't believe you you just took that guy out." And that was a fun day for me. That's probably the most fun I ever had, having them guys get that enthused for me. But yeah, that was cool to
Yeah,
think that
bracket
old motor
racing's
did that.
fun, and definitely having people around you is, well, an important thing. I know when I go down to the track, I got a group of guys down here that you'll meet eventually, but they're real down to earth people. They love helping out, and it's more fun when you do it with a positive crowd. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah, yeah. That's a whole thing right there. You have good people around you and good friends. That makes a big difference.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So that green car, tore a lot of people up, and Adam, ended up getting it, and that car has been through a few different changes, but I mean, man, they set a record for that thing, for what it was. I mean, it went pretty quick. I think me and Adam will touch into that, but yeah, what the heads that are on, your car now, is the motor that Adam's putting in his car, because I seen you put out a video earlier. But those
Yeah.
heads, a lot of people don't know, but that car has been had, you know, I can't even think about how much iron in the back of the trunk after you're, pouring heads out of the back of the trunk with a cordless drill and 30 batteries on chargers. And a lot of people
Yeah.
don't realize we didn't have a whole lot, growing up, and um, what we made work with whatever we had, and that pretty much showed me a lot, watching you guys do that at a young age, and that got me interested in, porting, and what it is to open up a motor and what it does. And how did you get into that stuff? And I mean, obviously you really didn't have much to work with, so you started porting heads and intakes, and trying to squeeze every little bit out of it. And what kind of motivated you on doing that?
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I'd have started porting a long time ago, but a few guys back in the day, every once in a while you had a guy that would be derogatory, and I mentioned about taking the heads off and porting them one time, and he was a friend, but he said that's not like you think. You just don't open a pair of heads up. There's a lot to that, and you'll mess it up if you do that. I know a guy that just had a car and he ported the heads and he slowed it down and things like that. So I would have actually been way more advanced if I didn't let that influence me, but it did. And I didn't start porting for probably 20 years after that. And I needed the car to go faster. And I had like about 300 pairs of E7s laying around. No, they were a dime a dozen. So what am I out? I run a pair of E7s. Nobody wanted them. Everybody says you couldn't go fast with them. I started looking the heads over that I had laying around. And I was like, these heads will work as good as anything out there, in my opinion, if you do the right stuff to them. And I dug into them and did what I thought would work. And evidently they work. So, and I did some things that people say not to do. And I think it works. And I just have one guy, and he's a guy I highly respect. And he confirmed one of my theories on his YouTube channel the other day. And that made me feel pretty good. 'Cause I see where these guys are making a mistake on the E7s. And what's funny, Mickey, the head guy back in the day that did E7s and they prided on the E7 head, he had a company. He made the same mistake on the E7s by doing the floor because they ramp up air and you're not supposed to really touch it there. And people say you get more of a flow number out of it there, which you do. But you know what I'd rather have than a flow number? I'd rather have a car that flies or that runs extremely well. And when you start cutting the floor down on a head, that is a wrong approach. I don't care if you pick up a flow number or not. That's what I've learned, and that's my opinion. Some guys won't agree with that, maybe. And I've seen actually, I just told my friend tonight, I've seen at least three people in a last week or so, and they're doing that. They pick up flow numbers, and that's a mistake. Then they wonder why their car almost takes a dive when they're shifting it, And that's one thing you can notice. If you listen to the car run between gears changes, even though Adam's shifting that car good, you can hear the recovery on that car, how quick it is. So I know I'm on to something there with my theory on that.
Yeah. And you guys done very, very well with the success you guys had with the E7s and small cam, and me and Adam will touch more on that, but we
We
gotta.
threw, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. Had a little click here in the phone. Um, we threw about 8 pairs of E7s away a few years ago, and I'm sorry I did now, but we were moving and stuff, and they were in the way. So, yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. And no, and everybody knows, like the E7 is probably, well, E6s. I mean, there's a couple of horrible heads out there, but for four guys that know about the 302s, I mean, everybody rather go with the Flowtex or the Edelbrox or the twisted wedges, strict flows, or AFRs, and nobody really wants to take the time to try and get the most out of everything. And that's what I kind of want my channel to be about, is showing you guys what you can do with stock parts and little things that you can buy, use really cheap, and get good results out of your cars. Maybe they don't have to be as radical as ours, but you guys can kind of get an idea of where we're going to be at. So right now I have a stock long block. Most of you guys know that. It's got a Whedon intake, or the dual single plane Whedon or Action Plus. I can't remember. I think it's the Action Plus actually, with the 650 double pumper on it, long tubes, basic, real basic combo. And we're going to be putting a set of heads on it. Car's been the best for me, 12, 17, and 110. I still think we got some improvements on that. I think the car should go 11s the way it sits right now. Can I get it there? Maybe. I just maybe we'll take another stab at it next year just to see. But I'm excited for these heads that are coming up, and I'll be able to show you guys the differences of what a completely stock head looks like to what Terry does. And it's not even a pour, I call it a work job. I mean, he works the heads um, from top to bottom, boss plugs, combustion chambers. He does really good videos on, how he did it. He did a series on GT40 heads that you guys can go and watch. Um, but I think a lot of people get lost in what's actually being done if they have nothing to compare it to. And I think that's something that we're going to be able to achieve here on my channel. So, any anything you want to release about the heads that we're doing, Pop, and so you can give kind of people an idea of what we're doing and what to expect out of them. Adam's already looking at valve springs and things like that for me. So
Well, for anybody who doesn't know, an E7 has a heavy valve train, so even upgrading the valve springs and some things like that, you'll pick up power. Even if you left the head alone, that would help. But in the real world, I started out doing your heads on the conservative side because we know you weren't going to run a camshaft at first. So old Terry here, I changed my mind. I haven't even told you, but I got your head pretty blowed out. So I'm hoping, being you don't have a cam in it right away, that it doesn't do a little worse than we thought. I showed him the Adam last night, and he said, "I don't think you got to worry about that." But no, only because I said there's no sense pulling these back off later and redoing them. You're gonna be putting the cam in it down the road. I'm just doing the heads all out, and that way we'll see what a full blown head will do on a stock motor. And I know what the heads will basically run on a motor with a cam and stuff in it, and I basically know what they'll run on a stock motor, I think. So I have a pretty good idea. So this is going to be interesting for people that's watching your channel to get to see a pair of heads that are actually done basically to the max on a stock engine, and then that will help people realize what you can do with a stock motor. just by what your car picks up, because you know that's the advantage people have watching your channel. There's a lot of guys that have combinations like yours, and they're just regular guys that just want to go a little faster, maybe, or maybe some guys are trying to go in the 11s and they think they need aftermarket heads, can't afford aftermarket heads, but they might be willing to even do it themselves or try to do them a pair of heads themselves. And you know, this is good for everybody when you do segments like you're doing with your car, because you're not really out a lot of money. An E7 head, you can still get them. You might have to pay a couple $100 for them now, but if you decided to do your own heads and you did mess them up, well, you're not out too much except for your time. And who knows, if you do the right stuff to them, you might have a big performance advantage, and it didn't cost you anything but your time and your cartridge rolls and things like that. So, you know, this is what's going to be good about people seeing what you're doing, what I'm doing. It helps guys. I had a guy a few weeks ago. He said, "You just motivated me," and that made me feel good. And I could picture this guy being on the fence. And you know, some guys, Mickey, they're going to wait forever to get that motor that makes 600 horsepower, and they're missing out. They have a
Yeah.
car that's just sitting and sitting because they're waiting to get the funds to build something. And meanwhile, they could be out there not realizing they can be going 11s or 12s. But most guys want to go 10s, you know?
Mhm.
But why not have fun in the process? You're one of them guys that said, you know what, I'd rather be out there having fun. And you know, look at you. Look at the races you've been having uh fun racing that car and that no prep and everything. You were in it. You now you get to talk about being in it. You'll get to compare later on down the road how the car ran with what you had then and what you have done in the future. So that's good for people, I think.
Yeah, it's gonna be a neat experience for some people, and we don't have a lot of subscribers, but there's definitely gonna be an older guy or a young kid that's never done this before or wants to get into something and be able to
Yeah,
relate to this car.
I feel like that's my problem. I always feel like I got to be everybody's dad. When I do stuff, I'm always thinking about the young kid that don't have anybody to turn to, and that's how I pick stuff. Because guys are older, most of them guys know something about it. You know what I mean? I'm always looking after the guy that might not know something, and some guys don't have any reason to know about performance work if they've never been around it. Now they want to try it, or they're interested in a car. Somebody got them interested in racing or something. Who do you turn to? Who do you listen to if you don't have anybody around your friends or anybody else that's into it? So that's why I always try to think about when I do my segments.
Yeah.
So
And that's what I want to try to focus this channel on. And, a lot of people, one, you'll be able to see what the heads pick up, but, maybe you don't want to go that route. Maybe you want to try something different and go to a GT40 head or a GT40P head. Terry has multiple videos on those in different segments. That way you guys can kind of follow along and you don't need to spend a whole lot of money. I'll tell you that no matter what route you take, being patient, cool-headed, and taking your time is going to be the winning factor for a lot of combinations and a lot of success in your goals. As long as you trust your instincts and you go out there and you try and have fun, hey, you might not have the best track day, but at least you're out there getting it done. And you guys will pretty much be able to watch this step by step. We're doing suspension changes, so you guys will be able to see what that does. And the plan is going to be, I haven't decided. Maybe it all depends on the time and the money. But doing the suspension changes and going to run the car out one more time with the stock long block before we do the heads. So we'll kind of get into that real quick. So what we're going to be doing this winter, and it's already winter time, but I have a K member, and maybe Terry knows, but a K member A arms, solid motor mounts, polyurethane trans mounts, and then frame rail connectors. That is all going on the car, and I'm gonna guess that the K member alone versus the stock K member that comes in the car. is probably a 45, 50 pound weight difference. And that's coming off of the nose of the car itself. We also have drop down brackets that are from UMI. They're like the old Southside bars, but they just relocate the lower control arm to give the car more anti squat. Um, I'm going to show you guys what pinion angle I'm going to run, the pinion angle that pretty much Adam tells me to do, and I know he's scaled these cars out before. So we're gonna let you guys play a little game. Um, we're gonna probably do the suspension stuff and run the car one more time. So the car's been 1217, 166 60 foot on that pass, 110 mile an hour, point 0.6 at 2,810 pounds race weight. So what we'll do is in the comments, you let me know what you think the K member is going to save, what time it's going to run with just the suspension changes, and we'll have a little fun with this. And then for the second part, we'll guess what the heads that we're getting from Grover Board Performance, Mr. Terry Grover himself. What kind of gains do you guys think that that will give us? Do you think we're going to get 3/10s, 2/10s, 5/10s? You let me know what a pair of E7 ported heads would do on a stock long block, single plane intake, 650 brawler, long tubes, and I haven't decided if I'm going to change the headers or not. That's something I want to talk to Terry about, and Adam as well. I don't know if I have the money to do anything, so I might run the ones that I have here, but we'll get into that later. So let's drop your guesses down in the comments. Pop, you got any guesses what you think the car might run and what I might pick up with the suspension stuff and then with your heads?
Yeah, I'm thinking with the heads, it might go about 4 tenths slower.
I think so
With
too.
I said slower.
Yeah, like 1260s.
I thought I got that over your head. No, you really want me to say what I think it will pick up?
How about we give it a general idea? On paper, if you were
Um,
talking to the average guy, what could you see as far as gains? How about we do it like that and then give your
all right.
professional opinion?
Well, you got to remember when you do a pair of heads like this here, your tune's going to be completely different. So your carburetor is going to be jetted different and everything else. But on a serious note, I always go to the 10th. You know that.
Hmm.
So I don't save myself any wiggle room. So if you pick up 3 tenths, then that would be like 30 horsepower. But I'm expecting to pull about 50 horsepower out. 5 tenths, that would be. The last time I took a guess at something, I told Bud his car would run 1070 with the pair of heads I just did for him, and he went 1085, but the weather was terrible. The humidity was so bad to have my wipers on going home. So in good weather, his car would be probably right where I said. So I'm hoping that my guess will be right with your car too. So if it's not, I'm not perfect. Just remember that, you
Well,
know, you never, you could do this 100 times and have 100 vehicles that ran what you thought would run, and then the one car might just kick you in the butt, you know?
yep.
So
So I'm thinking,
I think it's going to pick up 5 tenths of a second.
that the car goes 1150s is what my goal is, my personal goal. Because what that does for me, guys, is that gets my brain working. And as Terry said, the carburetor is going to be one of the biggest factors in this. And I'll be able to take you along and show you what I'm doing, how it's translating into the car. If we have to mess with a couple of different circuits with the air bleeds, there's a couple of things that I'll bring you guys through that you'll be able to see what the car is doing, what it likes, what it doesn't like, and the goal is to try and go 1150s. And then once we get to that point, we're going to talk about spraying the car, and we're not going to go crazy. 125 shot, 100 shot, somewhere around there. That equals on paper should be 100 horsepower. There's different ways of looking at it depending on how you guys flow the nitrous and what jet spread you use. But we'll get into all that step by step and
And bottle pressure too.
bottle pressure,
Bottle,
right? Yeah,
bottle
what's
pressure.
yeah, wide open throttle. How are you doing? Are you putting on a button? Are you going to use a wide open throttle switch on the carburetor?
Right.
There's going to be a couple of different things that we'll get into, and I think um, the route that we're going to end up going, at first we're going to try and do this stuff as cheap as possible. That way guys can kind of get a general idea. And then we'll look into, putting a good set of headers on it, doing a micro switch for the wide open throttle switch for the nitrous, maybe doing an MSD box so we can control the timing curve and ignition retard on the startup. And I'll show you guys how to do that and how to retard ignition timing for the nitrous. And that could all be done through an MSD box. And most people that are older than me, run into the EFI stuff, or younger than me, I should say. Everything's all EFI. So now you'll be able to see what carburetors can do when they're really well tuned in. And I'm not a master at this. I'll be learning this with pretty much everybody else. But I do have carburetor books, and so I know my way around them pretty well. But yeah, I'm excited for the channel. I'm excited for everybody to go along for the ride. I definitely want everybody to go check out, Terry's channel and watch some of the porting videos. And I'll try and do a couple of snippets of what the heads kind of look like now. But when the heads do come, we will pull these off and we'll do a whole segment on how the heads look stock versus what Terry's done. And you guys will be able to ask him questions, and he does really good at getting back to us. But the goal 1150s. You guys comment down below what your thoughts are, what you think is going to happen, and this is just one of many videos that we're going to be doing. And I hope everybody enjoyed watching this because it's just two guys talking, but this is family, and hopefully this is informational to somebody out there.
Yeah, well, one thing I want to say, the guys that follow us are actually, they seem like friends to me, Mickey. The guys I have on my channel, uh, you've even commented and said, you got some good guys in your channel, and that's what this is all about.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, and like just recently we've seen a couple other channels come up, and Oscar, and we have some good guys out there that this is all going to help their cars, help them out a little bit.
Hmm.
Because like he even on his own channel, he's just learning. And so anything that we do, it might help somebody. And even if somebody already knows something, it might give them an idea of something else. That's one thing I've always said on my channel. If people don't do things exactly how I do or think like how I think, it might make them say, hey, I'm going to try it this way. Or they might want to do what we're doing. So they're going to learn a lot watching your little car come around here, I think.
Yeah. And later on, who knows what the future holds, but I would love to do a collaboration with one of our YouTube subscribers. Um, and I kind of got a guy picked out. Ed, let me know, buddy. I'd love to do something with you. Maybe get him to build a motor for us or a short block, pair it up with Terry's heads, my driving skills and my tuning. And man, we might have to make something special happen for No Name Nationals 2025. But that's a long way from now. Let's take it one step at a time, and I hope everybody had a great time. I had fun. I know Terry had fun. And expect more videos, guys. So on that note, I want to say love and peace to everybody. I hope everybody has a blessed day. I love you, Pop. Thank you for joining. I
No
appreciate you.
problem.
And everybody have a good one. And like, comment, subscribe if you want. Join the family. Welcome to Small Block Ford's the slow version.
Might
All
make
right.
it the fast version. We're hoping to
Uh,
make it the fast version.
hey, we'll see. We'll see. All right,
We'll
guys.
see.
We'll talk to you guys later. Appreciate you stopping on in. All right, Pop. I love you.
Love you too, brother.